Okay, let's get started. Welcome to the CRM Online session, where I'm going to be talking a lot about all the new fun stuff we have been cooking up in CRM Online over the past few months, and really can't wait to share it with you over the next 60 minutes. Quick introductions first. My name is Venkat Satyamurthy, and I'm a group product manager at Microsoft. And I have two primary responsibilities in my day job. It's the core dynamic CRM platform, which there are a couple of sessions I'll be talking about later, right after this one and one tomorrow morning. And the other part of my job is also working on CRM Online. And today we're going to be focusing a lot on CRM Online specifically. So it's going to cover a whole range of things. We're going to cover pretty much across the stack a whole range of investments that we have made in CRM Online. But essentially it's going to fall into two categories, right? When you look at the investments we make in CRM Online, they usually are ones that you can see, right? These are features or capabilities that appear in the UI that you can actually see and have control over. Then there's other set of capabilities that we do behind the scenes. These are around things like security improvements or infrastructure improvements, performance that you don't get to see, but you get to experience. What I want to do here is just walk through the spectrum completely in terms of all the investments we are making there. So if you're an existing CRM Online customer, you're going to see a lot of really cool things that you've been wanting for a while, and you're definitely going to see that. And if you're someone thinking about moving from CRM on-premise to online, or not a CRM Online customer, this should make your choice a lot more easier, I hope. So, as far as the logistics go, ideally we can park the questions to the end, but if it's a burning question that you can't hold till the end, please feel free. Happy to answer it along the way. So before we start looking into the future, right, I want to take a really quick, brief, take you back into the journey of how CRM evolved. Just looking at the past will help you set some context on how we are thinking about evolving CRM Online. So, let's go back in history a little bit. 2003, that's when we launched CRM, right? Very first version of Dynamic CRM was born around 2003. It's a long time ago. And then in December, we launched a little quick service pack update there. So it was a small update, but still it was a small product within Microsoft. Didn't have the visibility or traction in the industry. It was just the launch of something big at that point in time. 3.0 came around 2005. We added a lot of customizations, and that's where CRM being able to customize to your needs. All those capabilities started coming in around 2005. 2007, the 4.0 was a big release for us because 4.0 is the time we launched CRM Online. Believe it or not, December 2007, Microsoft actually had a business cloud. That's a long time ago. We all look at Office 365 as the first Microsoft business cloud, but December 2007, Microsoft had CRM Online at the time. We are way ahead of our time within the company and in the industry at that time, but that's when CRM Online was born. Then we spent 4 years before we launched our next major release, which was 2011. So this is where things started changing, right? Around this time is when Facebook, Twitter, all of those things around 2008 and 2009, all these modern technologies started coming in. The next wave of social, mobile, and cloud came in. And people's expectation of what an enterprise application is started changing at the time, right? They started moving from enterprise applications, long cycles, slow innovation, not fun to use. And then they started expecting the same things they see in the consumer side of things in there. So 2011, the team and the product took a reset. And we spent the next a couple of years figuring out, okay, how do we start moving faster to meet this cadence there, right? And then if you look at the first 9 years or something, we had like 5 releases. The next 15 months, 9 releases, right? This is until the end of last year. There's a lot more if I started putting this here now. We just not only iterated on CRM Online, but we also bought 3 new products into the framework, right, in the family of CRM, right? Parature, Dynamics Marketing, and Social Engagement. So the product grew really, really fast. And what started as a quick innovation suddenly becoming a lot more challenging. It's great to have all of this innovation, but it's also, you have to remember, right on the other end, it becomes extremely challenging for the customers. So just to give you some context on how the conversation shifted, when I joined this team back in 2011, when I meet with customers, the questions that they used to always ask is, can you guys move a little bit faster? Because 4 years for a release is too long. Now when I come to this convergence, the topmost question is, you're moving too fast, slow down. So we really moved to the other end of the spectrum fairly, in a short period of time. It's funny, but it's also a very valid question. what are we going to do to make this problem easier on customers and partners who are wanting to adopt to CRM Online? This rapid cadence is hard to keep up with. So a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is going to be around 4 major pillars, right? It's about trust. What are we doing to make it easy for you to move to CRM Online? We're going to talk a lot about transparency, visibility, and control, because the ultimate goal is for us to make sure that you really have no reason to pick on-premise over online. We should have all the capabilities in terms of your visibility, your control. The feature bits are the same. Yeah, capabilities are the same, but you have so much more control in on-premise. You can choose when you want to upgrade, right? You can go to the database and tweak it. Some of those things are big blockers for people moving to online today. So what are we going to do to reduce the gap? We're going to talk a lot about those investments over the next 45, 50 minutes. Okay? And here's just things that you don't see that happened as well there. So we talked a lot about things that you see, but we do updates on a monthly cadence to our service as well. And there's a lot we do behind the service to keep it up and running. So I'm not going to talk through all of them, but we will highlight a few of these as we go along. So first off, before I jump into all new stuff, I wanted to recap on one capability that we launched recently. It's not fully publicly rolled out. It's starting to roll out slowly. If you're a large enterprise customer and you have CRM Online instances, or have a need to have CRM Online around the world, right? A good example would be, let's say you have a company and you have offices in North America. And then you also have your offices in Europe and Asia as well there. What do you do? Today you go and buy CRM Online in North America. That's where your subscription for CRM Online is. And you create an instance that's hosted in a data center in North America. That's great. But then your European department says, I need a CRM Online instance as well. What do? You go and create an additional instance within the same subscription that you have in North America. What happens here is that instance, by default, today gets hosted in North American data centers. Right? So essentially, wherever your subscription was created, that's where all your instances are getting provisioned. And for a company that has a need to have instances in different parts of the world under a single subscription, it becomes challenging. It's not impossible. What people do today is they create another subscription in Europe and another subscription in APAC. That's painful, because now you have to federate your Active Directory to 3 different locations there. It's just a nightmare. It's not the right way to do this. So we do recognize that as a problem. So that's solved as of last few months ago. We did make an update where you can create a subscription anywhere in the world, right? Any geography. But pick and choose. When you want to add an instance, you can say, I want this in North America. I want this one in EMEA, and I want this in APAC. So you can pick and choose under a single subscription, single billing, single administration portal. You can pick and choose where your instances are going to land. So this is something we talked about a few months ago, but in case you missed it, I wanted to highlight it again before getting into a lot of the new stuff that we're going to talk about. Questions on that? Okay. Yeah.
Any chance for one instance being geo-replicated so it can be used by any user globally?
That's a very common question. I was expecting this question would come up at some point. No, there's not a very direct answer, but we are making, it's not something we support natively, where you can have one instance with data replicated, but it's an integration pattern. And, we have many of our partners and, customers who have made it work. It's not easy, but it's possible. And we are doing a lot of work in integration to make it easy as well. So we got a session right after this where we talk about our integration improvements. And probably, when you get there, you'll see a little bit more of what are the options you got there around it. So in terms of where we are at, right? Here is a set of investments we're going to go through today. And these are just high-level categories, and we're going to go deeper into each of them today. Like as you can see, it's just, it's spread across all these different things in there. But one thing I want to highlight here is this, right? I got Azure, Office 365, and CRM as 3 big pillars. And if you have heard Satya talk, our CEO, over the past year, he's made it very, very clear, right? We got 3 big enterprise cloud businesses. We got Azure, we got Office 365, CRM Online is right, among these 2 big, heavyweights out there. This is an incredible time for me personally, because I've been in Microsoft for a while, and this is very, very interesting, because CRM Online is now a strategic goal for the company there. It's not yet another product line there, right? It's one of the top 3 product lines that the company is betting on. So if you had any questions, any doubts about how important CRM Online is to the company, don't even worry about it. This is absolutely a top priority, right along with Office 365 and Azure CRM Online has been absolutely a very big focal point within the company as well. So we talk a lot about how important CRM is, and we need to grow it big. And you grow it big, how do you do that, right? You got to have CRM Online available in multiple markets, and you also need to grow your data center presence as well. And that's exactly what we did. So if you looked at it around summer last year, this is essentially what our story in data centers looked like, right? You had 2 data centers in North America, 2 in Europe, and 2 in APAC. Not bad, actually, right? It is a good spread of data center presence there, because adding a data center is a lot of money. It costs hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to create a data center there. So we had 6 around the world. That was summer of last year. And then we added LATAM later that is last year. Then we now have Japan and Australia as well. So we essentially doubled our geo in where our data centers are in a period of 6 to 7 months. You just take a minute to how hard it is. It's a pretty big deal. 6 new geos. Data centers are not easy to do. But this is why being a part of Microsoft is absolutely critical for us, right? When Microsoft grows its data center presence, between Office 365 and Azure, we run on the same data centers that they run. So we don't need to really invest from a CRM Online all the cool data center capabilities there. We get to benefit from all the great investments that those guys are making in CRM Online as well. So anytime they open a new data center, we have an opportunity to go and open a data center for CRM Online along with it. This is by no means Microsoft's data center presence. Microsoft's there'll be dots all over the place, but this is where CRM Online is currently running. So we have got tons more geos that we plan for this year as well there. So soon you'd find a data center that's closest to you wherever you are. It shouldn't be an issue at all. By the end of this year, hopefully we should have a lot more dots out there. So that's specifically for data center. We also launched a government cloud. So for federal government, we launched a special cloud as well there last year. So there's a lot of work happening in the infrastructure side of things when it comes to CRM Online. And we also made it available in a whole bunch of new markets as well there. So again, we just it's not just adding the data center presence. You can buy CRM Online and transact wide range of countries as well there. And this is in line keeping with Office. Our goal is wherever Office 365 is available, CRM Online should be there. So both in terms of data centers and new markets, we moved the needle significantly over the last 6 to 8 months there. So with that, let's move on to some infrastructure improvements. So the way the session is going to go is we start with some of the behind the scenes investments, and then going up the stack and things that you can see. And I saved the best for the last. So you got to stay till the end of the session to see the last 2 ones that you're going to like there. So a big portion of CRM Online is performance. You really want to make sure that people have a really good performance, because good performance is good business. It's good for us. It's good for you. It's good for everyone there. So what are we going to do about it? We have been making investments across the stack when it comes to performance, right? So if you go to our platform session tomorrow or the general session, we're going to talk about stuff that we have done in the platform layer, right? Just to be clear, today I'm not talking anything about platform, anything about client. It's going to be all around CRM Online, the ecosystem administrative capabilities. But we do have sessions later today, tomorrow to talk through all of that specific investments there. But the performance also has an impact at the data center level as well, because there are in-product improvements we are doing, and we are doing a lot of them for the upcoming release. But we also have done some really interesting investments in our infrastructure as well. So let's walk through a couple of them here. So a big challenge people have today is with latency, right? You have, someone here asked, how do you synchronize data, a single instance going across multiple, geos there? The primary reason, if you look at the motivation behind it, the reason is usually the fact that my user is in some place and there's no data center near him, and they have to come all the way to North America, and they spend a lot of time in latency. And the performance is really sucky because it's something we cannot control. Depending on where your ISP is and how long they take to get to your data center, things can be really slow there. So what are we doing about it? So let's walk through this really cool animation here, right? So we started off with the, from a client here, who's using CRM Online. And then, you go to your local ISP. That's your first hop, okay? And then you go through this public network. It's basically the deal that your ISP has with other providers around the world. It can take any different paths there. And then you end up in one of the data centers that we host. And it could be on one of each side of the data center. We have a DR pair, so it could be on DC1 or DC2. And then you end up on a specific scale unit where your server is hosted. So essentially, you go through all of this path. Let's say a packet traveling there. So it goes through here, goes through all of these different networks. Right? You can guarantee the path here. That's what we're trying to illustrate here with this animation here. So it keeps going. Come on. And then finally, it lands in your scale group. What's the challenge here? If you look at it, the different hops people go through, right? There's a small latency in the first place. There's probably a larger one. This one is the hardest one because we can't control it. It could be anywhere, right? I've seen people routed from Chicago to West Coast, but they've gone through East Coast, down south, across the country before they landed up in the West Coast data center, just because it was cheaper for the ISP to do that. It's not in your hands, unfortunately. There. So how can we help you there, right? It's important because bottom line, it affects Microsoft's performance perception there. People are going to say CRM Online is slow. We can't really say, yeah, go deal with your ISP there. We can say that, but it's not the right thing to do. So what are we going to do about it? And it's not a problem for us. It's a problem for any online service to deal with. So what we did was the uncertainty that we had in the public, can we eliminate it? What are we going to do to eliminate it? So we onboarded to a service called Microsoft Edge. So what Microsoft Edge provides is a kind of a dedicated network or path from major gateways around the major locations in the United States to Microsoft data centers. So essentially, this is a service that Bing is using, Office 365 is using, and we are onboarding as well there. So with this model, what happens here is, you are probably 20 milliseconds away from any of these gateways, and your variability is from your client. How do you get to the edge gateway there? Once you get to the gateway, we take care of the routing from then on. So the bulk of the routing, we'll try to take you through an optimal path to the data center. So what essentially happens here is it goes through here. And it could be up to 25%. So I got to be mindful here, right? So don't walk away saying that you'll have a 25% performance gain. It's going to be up to 25%. If you're the more sucky you are now, the more benefits that you'll see with this. But that said, when are we going to go live with it? Well, it's something that we're onboarding right now. You don't need to pay anything for it. It's a service that we are going to improve in our infrastructure. You won't see any disruption in the service. There's nothing that you need to do. It's some DNS changes we need to do. So we take it behind all the work behind the scenes to handle it for you. So over the next 4 to 6 months, you will start lighting it up across the board there. Again, this is one of those things I wanted to highlight here because if I didn't tell you about this, you would never see, but you would probably see an experience and improvement in performance. But again, I wanted you to get an understanding of things that we do behind the scenes to make this better. So that's in terms of Edge. This one is around availability there. So bear with me. This is the last slide on infrastructure. Then we go into much more interesting stuff that you also want to see here. So it's the same thing there, right? Availability is critical there. So we have a very, very strong high availability and disaster recovery story today. Right? We have multiple data centers. We do failovers regularly. So even in terms of real serious disaster, we do have a great way to get the service back up and running. Not a problem. But this is taking it to the next level here. So, we saw this slide, right? So you have your, data center and you have your scale unit where you are provisioned. And, your traffic flows through all the way, comes here. This is great. But what happens is we do data center maintenance on a regular basis. We do load balancing on a regular basis there. And let's assume we do, things like updates. Most of it is failover, right? Let's assume for some reason the data center has a very catastrophic issue, and we fail over to the other side of the data center. We go from one data center to other data center. No data loss, right? We do have really strong, SQL always on replication story, so there's no data loss. But there could potentially be a perceived downtime. I'm saying perceived just because it's essentially depending on how the DNS gets refreshed. When we move from one data center to another data center, your DNS IP address changes there. And that essentially means if your downstream ISP doesn't really do a DNS refresh quickly, you will have a perceived downtime. If you know the IP, you can get there, but people don't know the IPs typically, so you will have a perceived downtime. And again, this is another example where we want to say, it's a ISP problem. Let's not deal with it. No, we don't want to do that. So what we did was we changed our model so that we can actually So what we do now is we have an internal routing service we put in there called PFD. So what it essentially does is we took the whole DNS routing from outside to inside. So it's now software-based DNS routing that we have put in our data center. So it doesn't matter what we do internally. We take care of all the routing internally across data centers across the globe too. So DNS is not going to be an issue once we onboard to this as well. Both Edge and this PFD is something that we are working on onboarding right now. Again, those two examples are just things that we are continuing to do just to make sure that even if it's beyond our control, we want to make sure that the experience is optimal for people that are using CRM Online. So I'm going to spoke through all of this. I didn't time the animation well. It's way too much animation. Anyway, so 2 takeaways from the infrastructure, right? Edge optimizes latency, improves performance, and Microsoft Property Front Door is for primarily DNS changes, improves availability there. Whole bunch more we have, but it will take probably another 2 to 3 hours. But these are the 2 things I want to highlight today when it came to infrastructure improvements. So, I'm going to touch upon this very, very briefly because this is going to be covered in the platform session there. But we are changing our form rendering, completely. In the sense that it's going to be available with the next release. So essentially, what we have done is form rendering has been a big part of a lot of performance challenges people have been seeing there. So we went in and redid a lot of how the form rendering works. Again, I'm not going to go into detail in this session. There's a platform session where we might talk a little bit about this more. But this is going to have up to 3 to 4x improvements in many cases there. Not all the cases, but there will be significant improvements in performance when it comes to form rendering. And you don't need to do much about it. And for one release, as an administrator, you can choose whether you want to, the old mode of rendering the form or turbo mode there. So that if there are some issues with the customizations that breaks it, you're not forced into it, but you'll have a release or 2 to adjust to it there. But this is something that you'll hear a lot about in general session as well. So let's talk about customer-driven updates. This is very, very interesting. This comes to the core of the conversation we started first, right? But we are pushing lots of changes on a regular basis there. So what are we going to do about helping you keep up with all of that stuff? What kind of controls we can give? So if you have used CRM Online, we have a process called customer-driven upgrade. So this is essentially how things work, in a very high level there, right? We have 3 kinds. We have customer-driven update, opt-in, for changes that we believe that you need to have control. These are the big every 6-month releases out there that we don't want to push out on you, but we want you to choose when you want to adopt it. And then there's minor service updates, which usually are bug fixes on a monthly basis that we push out. That usually is not controlled by the customer, but the first 2 are different options that you can use when you're doing a 6-month upgrade cycle there. So what customer-driven update is about the fact that you do have an option when you want to pick and choose. Your update should be applied to your CRM Online instance. And opt-in was another model where the update was applied to you, but the feature was turned off, right? So in the first case, we don't do anything to your instance. We leave it as is, and then we let you schedule your timing for update. The second option was we'll update the stuff for you, your backend instance there, but we won't let you. We won't turn the features on. We'll let you turn the features on yourself. And we are moving away from opt-in to CDU as the only method there, because we had some issues where we did update it and turn the features off, but there are some metadata updates that caused people some issues there. So we are moving away from opt-in model and focusing a lot more on customer-driven updates moving forward. And usually there's a whole bunch of improvements I'm going to talk through the next few slides. We'll get there in a second. And we also have dashboards that tell you a lot about service updates, incident response, and all of that stuff. But let's get to the interesting part here. So if you have been to the admin center recently, you would have seen an update tab there. What this update tab, if you click on it, essentially what you see is a series of your instances. And it says when it's scheduled for upgrade. Right? When you schedule something for upgrade, it shows all your instances, and it says it's scheduled for upgrade or not. What you have seen here is in an update status called approval required. So let's take a step back. What happened last year was we did have the ability for people, right? So let's assume we roll out a new release. What did we do? We pre-scheduled everyone, saying that you're going to be upgraded on this date and this time. That was great. And people had an opportunity to go and reschedule it. Right? Once they get in there, they said, what, this date doesn't work for me. I got something major going on in my business. Push it out. Great, that worked. But what happened was we had a whole bunch of people where admins didn't receive the email or admins didn't log on. So essentially what happened was, unfortunately for those folks, the upgrade was scheduled, and they didn't know that they were scheduled, and they didn't try to reschedule it, and they went through a process in a time that didn't work for them. It's unfortunate, but it was essentially, we opted you in automatically, and then it's your job to opt out. That's essentially the model that went. And we got tons of feedback, and we said, no, that's not going to work. We can't, it's an enterprise service. We got to be mindful of how people use it. So what we did now was, it's a lot more work for us to manage all these things, but we did add it, which is now we added an approval step in between. So that's what it says. What we do is we give you a suggested date and time that says we will update or upgrade you. And then it's up to you to go and say, you know what, I'm good with it. Until you say thumbs up and you're good with it, we don't touch instance at all there. So it's suggested. So we will not update it until you go ahead and approve it. So what it essentially means is someone needs to go and approve it. There will always be a timeline by which we'll force you to, but that's not going to be right up front there. So we'll give you one more step for you to make sure that you have the right visibility, and the folks that are managing their service get an option to actually go and have a say whether they want to approve or decline. So that's essentially, you go through the approve update screen there, and then you land here and then say, yeah, approve update, and then you get that approval. And your updates are all approved, and you're good to go there. And we also tied in all the learn more sections there, so you know what's coming in the upgrade and such as well. Here, I'm going to run through this. And one of the other things we also noticed was, a business user is different from an IT admin there. So in some cases, the IT admins did the right thing there. They went in and approved the updates. That's great. But there are business users who didn't really like the timing the upgrade was scheduled there. So what do we do? How do you keep everyone in the loop now? Right? So essentially what we did was we added a section for notifications there. So whenever you schedule something, you can go ahead and type in a bunch of people that need to be notified. So the 30-day notification, the 25, 15, 10, all the countdown emails go not just to the admins, but a broader set of audience as well. So people do have a say and visibility in it. Again, it's about hearing feedback and iterating on it quickly there. That's essentially what we are doing here. So you can type your people's email address in here, right here. Yeah. Not yet. I don't think we can do it. No, DL is different there, but it's not picking up from your admin notification. This is add to that. Okay. So let's. So I got one more thing here in upgrades too. Sounds like an infomercial here, but so essentially what we are doing is, when people do this, let's assume you had fall, right, or you're planning to go for fall, and then by the time you decide to do this between all the approval process, and then the time for spring update comes in there. Do you really want to go through 2 upgrade process? How cool it'll be if you let you skip one and then go to the next one straight. Well, you can do it shortly. We're going to let you skip an upgrade and then go straight to the next one if the timing doesn't meet you, and we're still in the supported format in the online world. We will let you skip upgrades. Okay? Question?
Yeah, the service window is always 12 hours, I saw it. Will it ever be shorter for that?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's something we're working on. So usually the update itself doesn't take that long, but the window is long enough, and people do have lots of concerns with it because 12 hours seems like a long time, and anytime your system could go down is not an acceptable time frame. So you'll see some changes coming in the next few months. We are working towards narrowing. It's more predictability on our side, so we're working towards it, but we'll try to. Our goal is to get it to 3 to 4 hour window is what we're trying to do. I don't think it'll get lesser than that because the upgrade cycles take longer, but 3 to 4 hours is what we are working towards.
During work days, if you wanted it in the weekend, for example, now that's going to be possible?
It is going to be possible, yeah. So we are going to push it into all 7 days, and then you can choose when you want to do it. Yep. So the next section I want to talk about is data protection there. So I put this slide in, but I'm not going to talk too deep about it just because it's all available in trust.microsoft.com. It talks all about our compliance and the data center security we have. I'm not an expert in compliance, and there was a session on compliance right at the same time, but looks like you wanted this session, so we can skip that piece here. So I'm going to talk about specifically around encryption here. Right? Encryption is going to be very critical because I keep hearing this over and over and again. Encryption of data in transit and encryption of data at rest. Because when you want to move an enterprise workload to a cloud, you want to make sure that you have control over the data. Anyone else, I'm not talking about hackers or breach here. It's about things like government wanting the data there. And the more we go across geos, the more and more government regulatory compliance needs come in here. So encryption data in transit, I'll keep it brief. It's not super complex. Here what we are trying to do is, your data is secured along the way there, right? Across the pipe there, whether is it from the client to the service, between data centers, across the spectrum, end to end, your data is encrypted and transferred, to our data centers. This is obvious. We have it today. Encryption at rest is a little bit more interesting. How many of you today, have a need around encryption at rest and key management here? Okay, a few hands here. So let's talk about it. When you talk about encryption of data and rest, everything comes down to one thing, which is who has access to the keys, because the keys to the kingdom for encryption is, the person that controls the keys here. So, and there are different flavors of how you can do encryption at rest. The first one is, completely customer managed, right? In this case, what happens is you install an encryption gateway on your local, network, and then when you access CRM Online, it goes through the encryption gateway, and then it, the data gets encrypted using your encryption gateway with the keys you manage. So by the time the data comes to the server, it's fully encrypted. So the moment it leaves your network, it's completely encrypted. We store it all encrypted. And then when it comes back, your gateway at your network perimeter decrypts it, and then you get to see it in the UI. Well, it sounds great, but the challenge is, the moment you put it all encrypted in the server side, all the server-side process like search, plugins, all the server-side things can't really function there, right? It becomes harder there. So you have a limitation there. You can have a lot of control, but you'll have some limitation there. That's one way. People do it, and there are vendors that support it. But it's one of the options there. The second option is trust us, trust Microsoft. Right? We will manage the keys. We will handle the encryption. You don't need to worry about it. It's a valid option for many people, but it's here. We do SQL TD encryption, so all the functionality is fully possible there, right? There's no limitation in functionality here. The third one is the sweet spot. How about we give the best of both worlds, right? We give you all the functionality you want, but let you manage the keys, which is the holy grail. A lot of people do want it there. And what are our options here across these three now? So if you look at the options we have today for the server, encryption gateway, which is what I talked about, right? The network perimeter that you can use. There are some vendors that we are working with to make it possible soon. So that will be available very soon. If that works for you, great. You will have it working. If you want full database encryption with full functionality with keys managed by Microsoft, it's available today, only on demand. Hopefully by the end of this year, we'll make it public. But it's available on demand today. So if you absolutely have a need for it, work through your support channels, and we can make it work for you. So that is possible today. The last one is full SQL encryption with customer managed keys. This is the best of the both worlds I'm talking about there. So we are actively working on it. There's some key challenges we got to solve. We are prototyping it right now, but I'm expecting it sometime this year we would be in a position to start onboarding some very select customers there. So that's the spectrum of encryption at rest story that we got today. Questions? Okay. Now let's start moving to some of the application lifecycle management. So now we are talking a little bit more about features that starts coming up in the admin center here. So how many of you use the sandbox capability in CRM Online today? Excellent. Excellent. So we introduced this last year. It was very popular. It gives you a peace of mind when you want to push out changes, test it with your production-like data. You clone your production instance, test it. When it's good, you apply to production. It's great there. But same can be said about preview bits, right? Let's assume today you're running the fall bits, and the spring is coming. Spring preview is coming there. Before you click on the approve button, wouldn't you want to actually preview the bits that's coming in later on your production instance or production-like data, and then test it before you go and hit the approve button? You need that. And that's essentially what we are launching with this release as well there. So what you can do here is you can take your production instance, and there's a new instance type called preview instance. So you can get the preview instance within your CRM Online admin center. And essentially you update the preview instance. Basically what you can do is you can copy your production data onto your preview instance and then hit update when you're ready to update it. So essentially what you now have is a copy of your production data running in a preview instance with the future bits in there. So we spent a lot of investments on what's happening in the future, right? Post upgrade, the CDU. Now this is pre. So essentially now you have a 2 to 3 month pre-release window, and then 6 to 9 months post-release. So that gives you a lot of time to make sure that you are ready to accept all the new bits that we are pushing over. Again, this is in line with all the stuff that I talk about, right? Visibility, control. The more we give control to you, it's easier for you to accept and adapt to these changes there. And then you can also reset it, the preview instance, and then start all over again there. And there's a button in the CRM Online admin UI that takes you to managing all the preview instances here. So Mike, you can availability-wise.
So, well, the preview's
Yep.
happening soon.
But it's public preview.
It's a private preview.
Yep.
Public preview we might do for a future release.
Okay. So this is today, right now, it's private preview. If you're in the private preview program, and you can contact our tab program, to get to a private preview there. Public will be probably in a release or two where we can make it publicly available to everyone. Right now, you can get onto the tab program and get all this goodness there as well. So a big question is, we want to encourage you to start using preview, because the sooner you find bugs, it's good for you, good for us. We don't want to ship software with issues there. So what we decided was, let's not charge storage at all for you. So that way you don't hesitate to go and do a preview instance because you got to pay extra for storage there. So there's your preview instance, when you make a copy from production, it won't be accounted towards your storage. And it's not pre-scheduled like your regular updates. You can do it on demand. So those are the two things that I wanted to highlight when it came to preview specifically there. And you can pick and choose when you want to update there. So you can make a preview copy. You can have your data customizations done. You know what, I'm good to go now. So it's on demand there. Usually it's CDU, right? You usually schedule a certain time. This is actually update now, which will enable you to update the preview instance to the latest bits anytime you want on demand. These are some minor investments that we made as well, which is around changing base language and currency. When you do a reset, for people who are using this, it's something that's useful there. We have seen it as many customer feedback there. So when you do a reset instance, you can go back and, again, small minor investments, but goes a long way for people that are using, the online admin center today and managing all the instances there. So, what's next? All of this is coming up, right? Next, when I talk about the next set of work, it's going to be, think of it, between the next 3 to 4 months there. So it's not way far out there. It's something that will start rolling out very, very quickly. So we got some really interesting stuff here too. Again, the first two are going to be really small. First one is going to be the ability to change your instance type. So today we have people who have non-production instances marked as, production instances marked as non-production instances, and there's no way to change the instance type today there. You have to call support. So this is now making that self-serve as well there. You can change your instance type. You got to be careful about it, but you can change your instance type from, if it's marked incorrectly, you have the self-serve ability to change it here. And the other one is deleting instance. Believe it or not, I'm surprised that took us this long to put it in, but we finally do have it. You can add an instance. We didn't let you delete it. Now you can actually go and delete it. So again, I'm not claiming to be a great feature, but it's something that was a gap. We addressed it. We put it in. Just wanted to share. So delete instance, it'll be probably a couple of months, yeah. Yep. So these are the last two features I was saving for the last. This is something I'm very, very interested in. Right? Today, in on-premise, you have a lot of control in your SQL instances, right? What can you do today in on-premise today? You can go in to your on-premise instance, and you can do backups. You can move it to any other system you want. You can, you have complete control over your database today. When it came to online today, you wanted to take a backup. Let's assume you have a compliance reason, and you wanted to move data from online and take your copy and keep it in on-premise. What do you do today? You have to call support. They will make it work, right? We do allow data portability. You can take your data from online to on-premise there, and we make it through a support call, but it's possible. But that's not a scalable model, right? Both for you, for our support, and for us. It's just a lot of work for everyone there. So how about we make it self-serve? So what we are trying to do here is the ability for you to go through admin portal and then decide, whenever you want to backup, you can make a backup of CRM Online copy on demand. So essentially what you can do here is you can go in and say, I want to take a backup, and you can store it as part of CRM Online, which will limit you to only one backup at any point in time, but you can say backup now, and then it goes and takes a backup of your database at that point in time and keeps it as part of CRM Online. Completely possible. But, yeah.
It's only the data or also the customization?
It's the whole thing. It's the whole database backup there. So which includes the data, the customizations, and everything. But that's not it, right? What about you want a backup every hour or every day, and you want to keep that for 5 days or 6 days? Well, we let it, we give your ability to give your Azure storage account. Then you can drop to your heart's content how many ever database backups you want. You can keep it and keep putting it in the Azure blob storage there. So this is something that I expect a lot of you to find it extremely, extremely useful, because now you got the ability to backup, which is a huge part of compliance for many, many large enterprise customers there. So that's something that we are working on and should be out there very shortly as well there. But this is in terms of backup. What you can also do is, let's assume you are doing some major customizations, or you are doing an integration job, something completely messed up, and you said, I want to go back point in time. I wish I could go back and get that backup and restore it. Well, you can do that as well there. So you can actually do a restore as well there. So what you essentially do is you can back up, and then you can come back and say, I wanted to restore it from this specific instance there. This is extremely powerful. Very, very few. I don't know if any other online services provide this level of control for you, where you can do self-service backup. You can actually restore it back. A lot of the other competing guys give you Excel-based reporting or comma-separated list. That's your essence of your backup there. This is your, letting you take backups at instances, at points in time, and let you back, restore it as well at any time you want it. So this is something that I'm very excited that we are working, and the team is extremely working hard to start rolling this out very, very shortly there. So this is something you'll start seeing in the next few months as well there.
The backup data will consume storage?
Yeah, it depends. If you use in CRM Online, yes. If you use your Azure blob storage, it's your storage account there. Or you can give your Azure storage account. You can manage billing on that separately, and then it drops it in there.
Okay. The one stored in online, no, it doesn't.
For the online one, yeah. For the one storage, for the one account, it doesn't. Okay. No, it doesn't. Yeah.
So is there any plans to schedule backups on a regular basis so that it's still
So I got the PM right there, so he can give you the backlog, the scheduling.
Not in the initial release. You might want to repeat the answer, but
Yeah, so
the initial release, but it's something that we're thinking about for the future.
So the question was, are we going to allow to schedule it? Yes, we will get it in the future release, but not right now.
We do nightly backups anyway.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we do nightly backups. Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. We do nightly backups on a daily basis in CRM Online. This is more, for you to do on demand. This is not the only backup story. If that's the case, I would be scared, but no. We do have a, yeah. Yep, that's true. So the system backups might make a good point. I should let the PM talk to it here. Anyway. So the system backups there are the ones that, what we take too. So you can use our backup in case you didn't do a backup at all and you said, oh shit, I screwed up, what do I do? You already can use any of our existing system backups as well. Okay, the next one is going to be performance dashboard. So I don't know how many of you have this problem, but I keep hearing this over and over and again, right? I want to move to online, but I get to go and tweak my SQL indexes on premise there. I know exactly what solution and what customization is causing my problem there. I can't do it in online. The performance is slow, but I know exactly what it is. Can you just give me access to SQL data there? I wish I could give you access to SQL data, but unfortunately I can't. It's just opening a can of worms there. But the concern is valid, right? It's absolutely important that we give you the ability to feel empowered over the data and the optimizations there, but we need to give it in a way that we can scale and support that. And that's essentially the whole data performance dashboard is going to be. And Mike here did all the work here, sitting up right up front. If you have questions, you can talk to him, but I'm going to talk through some of this, the dashboard here. So what essentially happens is this is a data performance dashboard you'll start seeing soon. What it shows is, some of the key things, right? It shows, we didn't want to showcase tables, first of all, because you're doing modeling at an abstracted layer. You don't work at the SQL layer when you model solutions there. So everything you see is going to be shown at the modeling layer that you designed when you start putting a solution together or did the customizations there. So you have the account here. Now let's look at the first entry there, right? You have the account here. And then the operation was retrieve multiple. On an average time it took was, for the last month, 3,000 to 40 milliseconds, or it's 3.2 seconds there. And the min time and the max time is also there, and it says how many times it was called, and the component that caused it, right? It could be a view or something like that. So that's what it says. What is that 98% impact? 98% impact is, it says that, we have an optimization that we can recommend that will improve the performance, not by 98%, but 98% of the, 1,897 would be impacted positively by it. It doesn't tell you exactly how much percentage it will improve, but it says you will have a positive 98% impact on majority of these queries there. So in the behind the scenes, we are using a lot of SQL DMVs to figure it out. And just to be clear, we do this on a regular basis, right? Our DBAs, and we have backend systems. What it does is it looks for people's long-running queries and then starts tweaking and adding and removing indexes based on what they might need there. We do it today, but we still don't cover it fully there. So we wanted to give you control over this as well there. So essentially, you'll see this dashboard, and you can drill into it, and you can see a little bit more detailed chart here, right? What you see here is how the time, the dots here shows how the time has increased over the last month, right, or the period you chose. And then the lines show the min and max at each of those times. And you can see it's increasing over a period of time there. And you do have a good 98%, or in this case it's a 68, but you have a good impact that can happen by optimizing it. So all you need to do here is go in and click the optimize button on top and then say optimize. That's it. So what essentially you can do is once you optimize it, and it could look like this, right? And I hope it looks like this, but that's essentially what it can come down. So it's because it's not rocket science. We are using SQL DMVs and then surfacing it all up there, right? So things that we do on the back end, things that people do on-premise, now you can do in online as well there. Yeah. No, it's at the SQL. We don't do. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not talking from the web server all the way down. It's measuring the SQL time. It's a SQL specifically. We do have those data there, and we can provide those. That's something we will do probably, hopefully for the next few months. We will start looking at it because we do have tons of telemetry behind the scenes across the stack. We know everything from the time a request was made. I don't know what the request is because we're not allowed to look into it, but we do know these kinds of requests are made, and this is the time it takes. We haven't have a plan yet to share that with you there because we want it to be actionable as well there. I don't want to say, yeah, it's slow, but you can do nothing about it. That's just not helpful there. So we want to make sure we get to a point where you can actually action against it there, right? So as we work through this, you will see that. Yeah. Right now, this is going to be online only. At some point, we might, because a lot of this, in on-prem, you do have a lot of SQL tools at your disposal, right? And that's why we are investing a lot more in in online, just because these things are not available for you. You don't have access to SQL, so we are trying to put it. Maybe at some point we will start packaging these, but right now the plan is this part of the product will be in online. So backup, the DSC teams would do that, but they don't sometimes cover all of that stuff. They maybe pick the top 1 or 2 items there. So they may not cover to all possible optimizations. You do have once you have control, you can do it at your own. And let's assume that you import a solution. They may not do it the right day, right, or the same day there. It might be a few weeks before they get to it. And they see the pattern, and it needs to match their signals to do it. With this, you have a lot more control, and you can optimize it whenever you want. Yeah, so that's definitely in the roadmap, not right now. So one of the things we want to do evolve. Let's see where it will evolve into. So if you're a system customizer, we wanted you to provide a way to say, here's a hint where I expect this solution and this particular field or attribute will need to be indexed so that we can start seeing performance improvements there. We don't have a way yet. This is just the start, right? By no means this is all we are going to do. We are going to have a lot more. One of the questions that people ask is, can I add my own index? It's great that you're recommending it. Why not I just add my own index? I know what my problem is. I can do it. Eventually we will, but the problem is people can do a lot more indexing than they need. You can go and put the problem on the other side with inserts and updates. So we got to be mindful there. So again, this is just getting started, getting our feet wet. I expect a lot more investments in this as we go through the next few release cycles. Yeah. Not in this release. Again, this is the first one is just going to be UI based there. Solutions, API, these are all good extensibility capabilities that we would have to start adding on as we go through this. Okay, and just like React, you can also remove it. Let's assume we made an optimization. It doesn't work. You can also remove it because optimization, if you create an index, it does add to a storage at some point. So you can go ahead and remove the optimizations as well. So the chart that I showed very pretty, that impact that had positive, it could end up it made no difference at all. And if it ended up in that situation, you can go back and remove the optimization as well there. And with that, we come to the last slide here. So this is just an overview of all the capabilities that we put in the online service. By no means this is complete, because I just didn't have enough time to go through every possible scenario here. But keep in mind, we are moving at a very, very, very rapid pace there, right? We just started on this, 6 months ago, none of this existed. 6 months later, we have all of this stuff. So, stay tuned. You'll see tons and tons of these improvements coming in on a regular basis. And, hopefully by next Convergence, we would have a lot more to share that's a lot more exciting here as well. Any questions? Yeah.
In the panel that tells us how much space we're using,
Yeah.
is there any way to know which table, which entity are taking how much space?
Space. Mike, you want to help with the storage question there? We'll come up on stage as well there, yeah. Oh, you're loud. You can project your voice.
I don't know if you can hear me, but not right now. That is something that we're looking at for the future. I think the question was around whether or not you can actually see what tables are consuming what space. No, not today. Now, so that's the resources and use page that Venkat did show about kind of splitting out between a preview and your regular production and sandbox instances. So no major improvements there coming in the near term, which is through July. And most of everything that Venkat showed would be released sometime between now and July. So the short answer is no.
Could we open a support ticket to get that information?
Yes, you can get that information from support.
They do not know.
Yes. So.
They do not know.
Oh, support didn't know is what he's saying. He says we can do that.
Okay, well, because I've heard other stories of them being able to do
Sure.
that. So I'll take that as feedback and check back on that. So. Yeah, and I've heard.
I think it's just your who you reached out in, I guess.
So sorry about that.
It's unfortunate, but yeah, we do apologize.
So I'm going to go talk to Frank. Any questions?
Yeah. Yeah, so
So about 4 weeks ago, there was an outage with CRM Online in North America. I have a client that's international with CRM Online. There really wasn't anything to let us know ahead of time that it was about to go down. But I think there was like a presentation or something.
really, okay.
So my question is there anything in the pipeline that potentially could warn us that we might have an issue before it happens, but not close to incident?
So if it's a planned outage, you should know about it.
No, it wasn't planned.
It wasn't planned. So the only way that if it's an unplanned outage, I think they do have a blog, and I don't remember the URL address directly, but they do have that way to do it. But I think this question, the best person to answer is Scott Thompson. He has a session right after that, and he's talking about specifically about monitoring and some of the investments we are making around monitoring and letting people know. And so we in the product team, we can talk features, but runtime, I can talk to it, but I won't be confident about the answer there. So Scott Thompson runs our service engineering. He's a GM there. He has a session right after this. And, you spend 30 minutes there and come to our integration session after that, okay? Okay.
That's a great question. So the current answer is no. Well,
Can you repeat the question, just Mike?
Answer is no.
Just get the question back again.
Oh, sorry. So the question was whether or not you can actually bring that backup on premise and restore it, or basically create it as an on-premise database. I get the ask, and actually it is in kind of like our list of things we would like to do. Right now, it'll be encrypted, essentially, and that's mostly to protect us. If you want to be able to restore it back to CRM Online, we want to make sure that you didn't go in there and do something nefarious and turn it into some potential security risks.
We do trust you, but still, there are people.
No, we don't trust you. And that's actually what you want. You don't want us to trust you. You want us to protect you.
It's a good cop, bad cop, right?
Yeah. So the core question would be, bringing it on premises, restoring it with maybe a different type of backup. Like you would say, I want this to be available for me to restore it. It makes perfect sense as a request. It's not in the first release roadmap.
There's a question all the way back there.
Yeah, just to clarify, the preview instances are in addition to the sandboxes that you already have?
Yes. Yeah, and when you participate in the preview program, they will give you a preview. So the question is how, partially is, I think, how you get a preview instance, and is it in addition to the sandbox instance? So a preview instance is a sandbox instance that you're given by the preview program. When you are a participant, you sign a bunch of agreements about what you can do with it and all that kind of different thing. And then they will essentially add it to your tenant for you. And there's nothing that you need to do, and it'll just start appearing in your tenant. It's not backed by any licenses currently. It's just kind of there for free for your participation. And I don't think Venkat mentioned, but you can send email, and I'll give you this. I'm sure they're going to love getting all these.
Oh, yeah.
CRM TAP Beta. So CRM-TAP-BETA at Microsoft.com. Yeah. So and they have a whole sign-up program and everything. It's just basically a form email that you'll get back with all the things that you need to do to kind of sign the agreements and be participating. And right now, there's a little bit of overhead that has to happen in the preview program, which is one reason why it's kind of a closed preview. So they may cap that out and say that we just can't take any more people because we don't have the resources. But adding features like this, where we can make it a little bit more automated and make it so it's less work, with an ultimate goal that at some point it'll be completely wide open and that everything will be automated, including the agreements that you need to sign and give me an additional preview instance and that kind of thing. So for right now, it's a closed preview with some kind of future goals there. CRM TAP-BETA. So it's the CRM TAP Beta at Microsoft.com. Any other questions?
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you.